Why your child refuses dinner, the real reason behind the no if you're a parent. You've lived this moment, dinner is ready, the table is set, and you're just hoping that tonight goes smoothly. But your child takes one glance at the plate and immediately shakes their head. I don't like this. I'm not eating that. I want something else. And instantly, you feel your energy drain. You try bargaining. Okay, just 3 bites and you get dessert. You try negotiating. Sweetheart, at least try the chicken. And on the days you're exhausted, stressed, or simply defeated, you do what countless parents do. You head back to the kitchen and make a second meal. Mac and cheese, toast, cereal, anything they will eat. And while you're standing there cooking that backup meal, you feel the familiar mix of guilt, frustration, and confusion swirling inside you. You're trying your absolute best, yet every dinner feels like a battlefield. But because the feeding dynamics most parents follow, especially in the US, Canada, Pakistan, and many other countries, are the opposite of what helps children learn to eat well. Meanwhile, in France, mealtimes look entirely different. French parents follow a simple feeding philosophy built on a single rule with 2 invisible pillars. This structure eliminates daily battles and transforms dinner from a fight into a peaceful routine. Before we break down that rule, you need to understand one core truth. ***, your child's eating habits are not a discipline issue, they are a biology plus behavior issue. And once you understand what's happening inside their brain and body, the solution becomes surprisingly clear. 3 feeding mistakes that make picky eating worse. These are extremely common. In fact, most parents make all 3 without realizing the consequences. 1. Offering backup meals. When your child refuses dinner, and you cook a different meal, they learn something incredibly powerful. If I refuse long enough, I get what I want. They aren't manipulating you. They're learning from repetition, exactly the same way toddlers learn any behavior. Backup meals accidentally reward refusal, and the refusal grows stronger each time. 2. Applying pressure. Just one more bite, please. This one is almost universal. Even gentle pressure creates the control paradox. The more you push, the more they resist. Imagine your partner standing over you at dinner saying, "Come on, take 3 more bites of salad. You need this." You'd lose your appetite instantly, not because salad is bad, but because no adult likes losing autonomy. Your child is the same. Research consistently shows children who are pressured to eat actually eat less, not more. They also develop stronger negative associations with those foods. 3. Grazing throughout the day. The goldfish crackers at 4 p.m., the granola bar in the car, the juice box during playtime, the handful of snacks to keep them calm. These small snacks seem harmless, but they eliminate the most important ingredient needed for eating well: hunger. Mild, healthy hunger is the foundation for trying new foods, but modern parenting advice has unintentionally created a fear of letting kids feel hunger at all. When children graze constantly, they reach dinner with no appetite, no curiosity, no motivation to try anything new, and then we interpret that as picky eating. Why toddlers refuse food, the science behind it. To understand why your child behaves this way, we need to look at 3 biological forces that shape their eating behavior. 1. Neophobia, the fear of new foods. Neophobia is a real, measurable stage of childhood development. Even adults feel a version of it. When you try a new cuisine or a dish you've never seen before, a tiny part of your brain hesitates. Now multiply that by 10. That's what your child feels. They're not being stubborn. They're not choosy. They're wired for survival, a biological instinct to avoid unfamiliar foods. This instinct peaks between ages 2 and 6. 2. The control paradox. Children have very few areas of life where they can exercise control. Food is one of them. The moment they feel pressured, the moment they sense that you care more about the bite than they do, their brain pushes back. Humans, even very small ones, resist control. This is why the gentle "come on, just try it for mommy" doesn't work. It feels like a loss of autonomy, and the child defends their independence. 3. The appetite cycle. Think about a moment when you were genuinely hungry. Not bored, not emotional, but truly hungry. Suddenly even simple foods taste amazing. That's because hunger biologically primes the brain to accept and enjoy food. But when children graze all day, they never reach that natural hunger window. As a result, they refuse dinner. They feel overwhelmed by new foods. They prefer bland, predictable, safe foods. French parents understand this cycle deeply. And here comes the part that may sound controversial, but is actually extremely healthy. French parents allow appropriate hunger before meals on purpose. Not starvation, not neglect, just structure. This controlled hunger is the biological switch that turns curiosity and willingness back on. The French rule that ends mealtime battles. The rule is called le menu unique, and most people only know the first part of it. In reality, the rule has 3 vital parts, and when they work together, picky eating begins to fade naturally. Part 1. One family, one meal. The core principle at dinner: there is one menu. The parent decides what is served. There are no backup meals, no negotiations, no separate food for the child. Sounds strict, but it's actually the opposite. It's structure. It reduces anxiety for children because they know what to expect, and it respects the golden rule of feeding. Parents decide the what, when, and where. Children decide whether and how much. You are not forcing them to eat. You are simply not running a restaurant inside your home. Part 2. The mandatory taste, the French secret most countries ignore. In France, children are not required to finish anything. They don't have to clean their plate, but they are required to take one polite taste. Just one. The wording matters. You don't have to like it, sweetheart. You just have to taste it so your tongue can learn. This reframes the experience. It removes pressure. It acknowledges their feelings. It encourages exposure, which is the #1 predictor of whether a child eventually accepts a food. And the tool that makes this possible is something called sensory talk, which you'll learn more about in the next parts of the script. Once your child takes that one polite taste, something important happens, but only if you guide the experience the right way. And most parents focus on whether the child eats the food, while French parents focus on how the child experiences the food. Instead of saying, "Do you like it?" which pressures the child and triggers the control paradox, they ask questions that awaken curiosity, such as, is it crunchy or soft? They also ask, is it salty or sweet? They ask, does it smell warm or fresh? They ask, what does the texture remind you of? These questions shift the entire moment, and suddenly, it's not about eating to please the parent, because it becomes an exploration, a sensory experiment, a tiny, harmless, even fun investigation. This simple shift does something brilliant because it changes the act of tasting from compliance to discovery. Children stop feeling judged, you stop feeling frustrated, and everyone becomes calmer. In France, this approach has a name: palate training, and French parents see palate training the same way you might view teaching your child to read. You wouldn't skip reading practice just because it's difficult. And you wouldn't say, oh well, you don't like letters, so let's stop. And food is the same. A taste is a lesson. One small, gentle exposure that teaches the brain this food is safe. And for a child who is fearful or extremely picky, tasting doesn't even require swallowing, because even smelling the food, touching it with a fingertip, or pressing it to the lips all count as exposure. The goal isn't to chew and swallow. The goal is familiarity. And that's important, because science is clear that children need 8 to 15 exposures to a new food before they accept it. But most families stop after only 3 tries, and they assume refusal means dislike, though it doesn't, because it just means not familiar yet. This is why the French approach works, not because French children are magically obedient, but because the system gives them consistent, pressure-free exposures. But here's the truth no one tells you. Most families who attempt the French method fail because they skip the hidden third rule. Parts 1 and 2 create progress, but part 3 is what makes the entire method work smoothly, predictably, and consistently. Part 3 is the 2-hour hunger window, which is the invisible requirement and the piece almost every parent gets wrong, even those who try their best to follow the system. Without this element, the other 2 steps collapse every single time, and French children do not graze. They eat at structured times: breakfast, lunch, afternoon snack, la goûter, around 4 p.m., and dinner. And after that snack, there is nothing except water until the next meal. Not because the parents are strict or militant, but because they understand something essential. A child who isn't hungry has no biological reason to try anything new. If your child had a handful of chips at 5:30 p.m., or a juice box in the car, or even a small bowl of cereal after school, the entire system fails. Hunger is the key that unlocks curiosity, and when the stomach is full, even slightly, the brain shuts down interest in unfamiliar foods. That's why you need a 2 to 3 hour hunger window before dinner. It is not starvation or deprivation, just space. Space for the appetite cycle to reset, space for their body to build interest, and space for dinner to actually matter. Even a large glass of water right before dinner can fill the stomach and suppress appetite because children have small stomachs. And it doesn't take much to remove natural hunger. So the rule is no snacks, no grazing, no juice boxes, and no just a little something, with only water allowed. Do this, and you'll see an incredible shift. A hungry child becomes a curious child becomes an open child, and an open child starts eating foods you never imagined they would. To implement the French method at home step by step, you begin with step 1, which is to serve one balanced family meal that includes a protein, a vegetable, a carbohydrate, and importantly, one safe food. A safe food is something your child always eats without a fight, such as bread, rice, yogurt, fruit, or plain pasta. The safe food helps reduce anxiety for both of you. Step 2 is to require one polite taste, using the same language every time. You, Dan, T, have to like it. You do have to taste it so your tongue learns. There is no pushing, bribing, or threats, just calm, predictable structure. Step 3 is that after the taste, they decide what to eat because they choose from what's on the table. You don't hover, you don't count bites, and you don't monitor. You simply let them eat in peace. Step 4 is to stick to the meal schedule, and if they barely eat, that's okay. You don't offer last-minute snacks, you don't give cereal before bed, and you simply wait for the next scheduled meal or snack. This teaches the body to trust its appetite and the system. Step 5 is to not comment on how much they eat. You avoid saying, "Good job eating," or "You didn't touch your broccoli," or "Just one more bite," maintaining zero evaluation, zero pressure, and zero emotional reaction. Keep autonomy intact. A real example of the method in action begins when your child sits down and spots green beans and instantly declares, "I Dan T like green beans." You stay calm, neutral, and unbothered and say, "You don't have to like them, sweetie. You do have to taste them." So your tongue learns. They hesitate, you wait, and your face stays soft and confident. Finally, they take the tiniest bite, and they make a dramatic face, maybe gag theatrically, maybe act like they're in a soap opera. You stay completely calm, and then you ask gently, "What did you notice?" You ask, "Were they crunchy or soft?" And they think for a moment. They say, "Soft and squishy," and you smile warmly and say, "Interesting, soft and squishy. Thank you for tasting." Then you shift the focus and ask, "Now, what else would you like from the table?" They eat chicken, they eat rice, and they never touch the green beans again. That is a perfect success because that tiny taste equals exposure number 1. Next time the food will feel a little more familiar. By exposure number 8, they might take 2 bites, and by exposure number 15, they may genuinely enjoy it. This is the long game, and it works. Families who follow this method consistently report that within 2 weeks there are dramatically fewer battles. Within 1 month, children willingly try foods they once rejected, not because they were forced but because their bodies began to want to eat. Parents often ask what to do if a child still refuses everything, so we address the first question. Question 1 is, what if my child eats nothing at dinner? The truth is that if your child arrives genuinely hungry and a safe food is available, they will eat something. Human survival instincts are powerful. A healthy child will not starve themselves when food is present. They might not eat the food you wish they would. They might eat less than you expected, but they will eat. And if they truly refuse everything, you say calmly, "Okay, you don't have to eat. This is what we're having for dinner." You do not panic, and you do not prepare backup meals, and you do not offer snacks later. When the next scheduled meal or snack comes, they'll be hungrier and far more willing, which proves the system works. The entire approach relies on calm consistency, repeated exposures, and the hunger window working together. Children learn that food is not a power struggle but a predictable experience. Parents learn they don't need to negotiate or pressure. The brain learns that unfamiliar foods are safe through repetition. The child's anxiety decreases because the system is stable. The parent's frustration decreases because the rules remove conflict. Curiosity slowly replaces fear. Familiarity slowly replaces avoidance. Exposure slowly replaces resistance. And tasting becomes learning instead of fighting. The method works because it respects biology, psychology, and development all at once. Hunger creates openness. Curiosity creates willingness. Predictability creates safety. Repetition creates acceptance. Structure creates peace at mealtime. Calmness creates trust. Trust creates cooperation. Cooperation creates progress. And progress creates long-term change. Eating becomes a skill learned gradually, just like reading or walking. The child learns they can handle new textures. They learn they can handle new flavors. They learn they won't be forced or judged. The parent learns they don't have to intervene. Meals become predictable instead of chaotic. Tasting becomes calm rather than dramatic. New foods become familiar instead of scary. The system works because it keeps emotion low and exposure high. When the system is followed consistently, picky eating fades, and children ultimately learn to explore, accept, and enjoy a wide variety of foods. The kitchen closes after dinner, and breakfast is served at 7 a.m. Then you follow through. One missed meal does not harm a typically developing, healthy, well-hydrated child. Of course, if your child has diabetes or any medical condition that requires controlled calorie intake, you follow your doctor's guidance. But for most children, the real issue isn't hungry, the pattern they've learned, that refusing food leads to special treatment. When that stops, something simple happens. They get hungry. And when they're hungry, they eat, usually at breakfast. Question 2. What if my child is an extreme picky eater? If your child has a diagnosed feeding disorder, sensory challenges, or severe food aversion, specialized help is needed. This method is intended for typically developing children with everyday picky eating. And here's what I see most often. Many kids don't have a disorder, they have a reinforced habit, and habits can be changed. Question 3. What if they refuse the mandatory taste? This is where gentle firmness matters. The tasting rule stays consistent. You're not forcing portions or requiring them to finish anything, just one single taste. If they resist, stay calm. Don't remove the plate. Simply say, in our family, we taste everything once. Take your time, then return to your own meal. This isn't punishment, it's consistency. Most kids eventually take the taste because they're hungry. But if they don't, you quietly clear the plate when the meal ends. No anger, no lecture. The real learning happens later, when they feel hungry, not during a power struggle. Sensory talk, the technique that replaces pressure. Let's dig deeper into sensory talk, because it's one of the most effective tools you have. In the US, parents are often told to avoid comments altogether. Don't praise, don't criticize, stay neutral. That's better than pressure. But French parents take a different approach. They make food interesting. Instead of, good job eating your peas, which creates performance pressure, you ask, does it taste different from last time? What does it remind you of? Is it sweeter than the carrots? This shifts your child into curiosity. They begin noticing textures, flavors, and differences. This is the foundation of mindful eating. You're teaching them vocabulary, awareness, and exploration without pressure. Adjust the language to their age. For a 2-year-old, is it hard or soft? For a 5-year-old, does it taste different from last time? For an 8-year-old, what does it remind you of? The principle stays the same. The vocabulary grows. Other tools that support this method: the exposure clock. Kids need 8 to 15 exposures before accepting a new food. Keep offering, no pressure, just presence. Family plate modeling. Eat the same meal they eat. Let them watch you enjoy the vegetables. Don't comment, just eat. If they ask, do you like the broccoli, Mom? You can simply say, I do. It's crunchy and a little sweet. Then, move on. Children learn more from watching than from listening. Predictable rhythm. Keep consistent meal and snack times. When your child knows snack is at 3 p.m. and dinner is at 6 p.m., their body starts anticipating food and their appetite aligns with the schedule. Realistic timeline. What improvement actually looks like. I know this may feel overwhelming. You might be thinking, but I've tried being firm before, it ended in tears. Or, my child is different. This won't work for us. Here's what to expect. Days 1, 2, 3. The testing phase. Your child may skip a meal or eat very little. Totally normal. They're learning the new boundaries and checking whether you'll cave. Don't cave. Days 4 to 7. The first shift. They begin eating more at meals because they're genuinely hungry. Weeks 2 to 3. Dramatic reduction in battles. Everything starts to feel easier. Weeks 4 to 6. The new normal. This rhythm becomes second nature. Everything you were doing before: backup meals, snacks to take the edge off, pressure, negotiations you did because you love your child. You just didn't have all the information. Now you do. You're not just teaching them to eat right now, you're reteaching them a lifelong skill. Hunger is normal and manageable, new foods become familiar with exposure, meals are predictable and safe. Remember when I said backup meals train your child to refuse? You're not doing that anymore. Now you're teaching appetite, structure, and gentle exposure. Those three do the heavy lifting. Your job is consistency and trust. Take a breath. You've got this. This French approach is powerful for picky eating, but if your child refuses entire meals, the real issue may actually be what's happening between meals. Most parents unknowingly make at least 3 common feeding mistakes that suppress appetite. Click the video on screen now to learn what they are.